Sandy, and today I'm doing my November wrap up. It is currently the 2nd of December. I spent the 29th into the 30th of November in hospital, so I feel like crap still and I look like an egg. And yes, I do, Alice, stop arguing with me. And and I still feel like crap, so please let the dedication to this channel be known, that I'm still trying to get a half decent video up for you guys on Monday when you should be seeing this. So I did the West End Reads readathon last month, and I already went through my TBR and what prompts and things. I'm terrible at remembering what prompts I did for things, so I'm not going to be going over the prompts that I used these books for. I'm just going to be giving you a quick rundown of my thoughts of these books, and yeah, I shall be going from there. This is mainly in sort of order of reading. There might be a few that were switched around, but you know, you don't care. So first of all, the first thing I read was 5 Folk Tales by Sheila Kirimon. This is a series of short stories, I suppose, not necessarily short stories because it's all based on folk tales from the Kingdom of Fife, which is where I live. I do know that one of the things I read this for was like a book set in your hometown. But yeah, this was really cool and interesting to learn because I know sort of general Scottish folklore, but this is specific to the area I live in, so it was really interesting to see what, you know, little folklore tales and myths and things that I've been missing out on about things in my area. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed it and I'm glad I read it. The next book I read was The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. This is the last in the Chronicles of Narnia. Again, not one of my favourite ones. Like, certainly I love that we get all the characters back. Everybody that we've seen in the past 6 books comes back into this book. And I'm sorry if I'm sparkling you because I just saw the reflection on the camera there. But yeah, so we get to see everybody. It's mainly, I think, Jill and Eustace. Yeah, Jill and Eustace. But then it brings back everybody else. Yeah, I really enjoyed this as part of the Narnia read-along that I was doing for myself, but in the way of like the books, it's not really my favourite, and I am glad that I got a refresh of this as like an older adult. I don't know. But yeah, I really enjoyed it anyway. The next book I read was probably one of my favourites of the month, and that was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I swear Emily Henry just writes better books every time. Like, every book gets that much better, and so far this has been my favourite. This is about our main character Nora, who is a literary agent and is known for being cold and calculating, and she is the girl that the guy leaves for the girl in the love story. So, like, you know when you're reading a romance novel and the main character or the love interest, so they go to this place to save this tiny little, or they like to do something like take over this tiny little bookshop, say, or this tiny little cafe, and then they get to know the people in this little town and they fall in love with the town, fall in love with the person that runs the place, and they move to the tiny town to help save this place, and they leave this horrible corporate nasty girlfriend. She's the girlfriend that they leave, and this is Nora's love story, and this had me at the prologue. Like, just do yourself a favour and read the prologue. This was an excellent book. I absolutely loved it, and I loved that Nora as a character didn't give up her dreams for a love interest. It was such a good book, such a good story, and I really think Nora is probably one of my favourite characters ever because she stands up for herself. She says, like, no, this is not what we're going to do. Like, it's... yeah, no, this is definitely my favourite Emily Henry so far. Next up, I read The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This was, in some ways disappointing. I'm sure there was something about this that I didn't like. But my overall feelings after a month or so, I would read it again. I really enjoyed it. I think on a second read this would be better. This is about our main character Catalina, who desperately needs a date to her sister's wedding, and it opens on her discussing this with her friend in the office, and her sort of rival at work is like, well, I'll go with you. And she's like, yeah, okay. When hell freezes over. So of course they go together, and it's an enemies to lovers, forced proximity, like all that good stuff. But I just feel like, I think it's possibly Lena. Lena as a character, she's so against this guy so much. Like, she just, it's kind of like in the Love Hypothesis, how, no, not Love Hypothesis, sorry, Love in the Brain, where she just assumes everything he's doing has like a nefarious purpose. And in this, Lena really annoyed me with that, because it was like, can you just speak to the guy? Like, just have a conversation. That's all I'm asking. You know, that's all I'm asking. He's pretty upfront with her, but she always thinks he's saying it in like a sarcastic, nasty way, and he's not. He's just being blunt, and he's just being honest. And I really, really liked our main character. I think it's Wesley. I don't know. I just think everybody's called. Oh, Aaron Blackford. That's the one. Aaron Blackford. I really liked him as a character, actually. It was the main character that put a bad taste in my mouth, but I think knowing what happens at the end, rereading it, I would probably really, really like this. So yeah, definitely recommend it, but it's a strange one as well, because yeah, I totally agree with what people have been saying. Like, I get it, Aaron Blackford's huge, like he's big, tall, muscly guy, like, I get it. You don't need to keep telling me. But no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Next book I read was Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This is the last one I needed to read of my Alice Oseman reads, and again, I really enjoyed this one. It's not what I was expecting at all. Absolutely not what I was expecting, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I did enjoy seeing Aled more, because we get Aled in the Heartstopper books, and you see more of Aled here, and it's strange because you don't, I don't know, I feel like it was two totally different characters, and I couldn't really mesh them together as the same person. But Aled is very reserved in Heartstopper, so, you know, I get it. Like, I just feel like this, I don't know, because a lot of Alice Oseman's work, it's like, it's kind of such low stakes stories, but it ends up being really high stakes, especially to the characters. And I get that feeling from high school, like when things just seem like it's the end of the world, and I really appreciate that in their books. But it just definitely wasn't my favourite. Heartstopper's obviously my favourite, but it's definitely up there. Next was Talk Bookish to Me by Kate Bromley. This was, again, like another one of those rom-coms that I really enjoyed. This did have a trope in it that I wasn't keen on, and it, I don't know, I kind of said it did make me want to DNF the book, but I finished it and it was really nice. But I have to say, Ryan, who is the ex, so basically Cara's best friend's getting married, and when she goes to the rehearsal dinner and the best man shows up, it turns out the best man is her college ex-boyfriend, who was a complete dick to her when they broke up, and basically they have this relationship that is nigh irreparable, but he wants to repair it. He then ends up having to stay with her when he gets kicked out of his hotel room for his dog anxiously chewing everything. The dog, by the way, best character. And they have this sort of forced proximity thing, but then it turns out he's a giant liar and even more of a dick than you even think. And it ends up in a love story at the end, but I feel like a lot of this would have been a deal breaker for me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm heartless, but I still really enjoyed it, but I don't know. I just don't know. I'm still kind of ambivalent about this one, if I'm being honest. Next, I read Twice Shy by Sarah Hogle, and I read this as a buddy read with Lisa from Lisa Does Life. I will tag her down below. I've still got my little tabs in for our buddy read. I really enjoyed this, but I needed more book. Lisa says the same thing. This just wasn't long enough. I could have done with like 200 more pages of this book. It was so tightly, densely packed that you could have added a lot of fluff in the middle, like all the way through this, and it would have just been that extra bit perfect. But the main characters, we've got Maybelle and we've got Wesley. This is why I kept saying Wesley for one of the other books. And basically Maybelle is working this horrible job where she's not, you know, respected and everything. The boss's daughter treats her like her own personal, like, best friend slash maid. It's ridiculous. And then she gets a call to say that her great aunt has died, and that she's left her estate to her, which includes this house that she stayed at, Maybelle stayed at when she was younger, and all she has is happy memories of being there because she would bounce around home to home with her mum, depending on who her mum's new boyfriend was, and she remembers being happy in this place, but she hasn't spoken to her great aunt or seen her in years since she left, basically. But when she gets there, she discovers that her great aunt has also left the other half. Like, she's actually given her half the estate and has given the other half to Wesley, who's the groundskeeper, who was basically, our aunt's companion, I suppose, in her later life. But yeah, basically what's happened is she gets to this house, she finds out about Wesley, who's the grumpy and the grumpy sunshine. He is like a mute, grunts to reply, doesn't like to talk to you, won't look you in the eye, absolutely dismisses you, kind of douchey, grumpy, and the grumpy sunshine trope. But yeah, she finds out the house is in disrepair and her aunt turned into a hoarder after her husband died. And I mean, like, there's like mouldy stuff everywhere. Like, when they're digging through all the crap, there's like dead mice and rats and possums. Like, it's horrendous. But they decide they're gonna, get all the stuff out of this house. And then she wants to turn it into a hotel, he wants to turn it into an animal sanctuary. And as they get to know each other, this kind of facade that Wesley has cracks, and he goes from being like grumpy sunshine, like grumpy, to like this really, like, I say, like, he went from 0 to crazy like that, like, because he's like so quiet and doesn't say anything, and then all the crazy's on the table. Like, he is socially anxious, he cannot be in public, he shuts down when he meets new people, but then when he's comfortable, all the crazy comes out, and suddenly he's like telling you his life story, and like, like almost overstepping with some of the things he does, and it's just, I was like, I don't like this, and I don't know why. And then I realised, and I messaged Lisa, and I was like, I know why I don't like it. I am Wesley. Because I'm like that. Because I shut down and don't talk to people, and I'm really, really, really reserved. And then once you get to know me, all the crazy comes out. And I am like, like, you get my life story, you get all of it. So I saw myself a bit too much in Wesley, and he irritated me, which is saying something, because yikes. But yeah, no, I really, really liked this. I really enjoyed this. There was elements that I think could have been fleshed out a bit, like the history with her great uncle, and the sort of trail that they have to go on, the scavenger hunt. I would have liked more of it. That's the only criticism of this that I have, is that I wanted more. And Lisa and I will be doing reading Just Like Magic, which is also by Sarah Hogle. We will be buddy reading it this month, so I'm really looking forward to it, because that is a nice chunky book, and hopefully, Sarah Hogle can only improve. Next, I read 2 books by the same author. That was Maria Lewis, and that was The Witch Courted Death and The Rose Daughter. These were some of my favourites of the month as well. This, even more so, The Witch Courted Death is shot up there to one of my favourite books ever. And The Rose Daughter, there's just, like, Maria Lewis cannot write a bad book. I'm planning next year on doing a dedicated reading vlog for this series. I've got some of it behind me there. So there's Who's Afraid, Who's Afraid 2, and Who's Still Afraid. The Rose Daughter, The Witch Courted Death, The Wailing Woman, It Came from the Deep, and Her Fiercest Creatures is the whole series. I've read them totally out of order, so I'm going to do a reading vlog where I read them all in order and get the whole story as it's meant to be read, and I'm going to do a full spoiler, like in depth. This video is going to be epic because I love this series. The Rose Daughter follows Drexley, who has made a point in her life to become invisible because she is the forbidden union between an earth elemental and some kind of water thing. And a Selkie, there we go. An earth elemental and a Selkie, so she is a true sprite. And sprites are kind of like illegal to exist in this world. It's our world with magic in it, so like Selkies, vampires, werewolves, immortals, banshees. It's fantastic. but you'll get all that in my spoiler vlog. So this basically follows her, and she is getting involved in what's going on in the supernatural community, because suddenly there's a target on her back, and she either needs to step up and help everybody with this target on her back, or she can go into hiding, and she decides that she needs to do something because these are her people. I absolutely loved this. They were all fantastic. Directly as a character you see in other stories, these are all interwoven, so you see them, and it's just getting to know more about her, and because she's such a strange character, it's just so interesting. And then we've got The Witch of Courted Death. This is about Caspar von Klitzing, or Courvoisier von Klitzing. Caspar is her nickname, and she has a twin called Barry. At the start of this book, Barry is killed. We know from previous books that Barry is dead. This is sort of set before the other books. And he is a ghost because they are twin mediums. So they have the ability to sort of go into the veil, and it's similar to the Archive of the Unbound, where there's this lobby that they call it, where they can take spirits and ghosts, or not spirits because they're different, ghosts back, like, to the light, basically. And they get paid by this like supernatural order, who are the ones causing all the trouble in the rest of the books, to go into haunted places and help get rid of the ghosts. But then this sect called the Oct kill her brother and try and kill her, and in doing so, she ends up with an amputated arm. And this is basically a year later. She is looking for revenge, looking to find out who they are, and looking to kill them for killing her brother. As you know, twins are often very, very close, and they only have each other because the rest of their family were killed when they were small children. So the guardian that they've had their entire lives, she's killed at the start of this, and along with Barry and Courvoisier, Caspar goes on this sort of rampage to find them. And it's just, Courvoisier is probably one of my favourite characters ever, and I spoke to Maria Lewis on Twitter, and Caspar is also one of her favourite characters to write. So I'm so excited for this vlog. I'm so excited. You have no idea what you're getting into if you watch this vlog. But yeah, this was just fantastic. I just love it so much, and look how floppy it is. This was one of the best books ever. But I'm going to stop there, because otherwise this will just turn into a Mary Lewis appreciation video. The next book I read was The Inheritance of Arcadia Divina. This is a book that's been on my radar for not that long, and it is about our main character, Arcadia Divina. Well, it's not even necessarily about Arcadia. So it switches between Arcadia as a child and growing up, and how she became Arcadia Divina, and how she became the grandmother, the matriarch of this family. But it also is about her kids, so it comes from the perspective of one of her grandkids, Marimar. And Marimar, Ray and Rhiannon, who are grandkids, or a great-grandchild, I think, in one case. So yeah, all the family are summoned back to the house, where Arcadia says that she is dying, so they need to come and see her. And when they get there, they discover that the house is in disarray, and that Arcadia is in the process of becoming a tree. And that there's this family secret, how she got her abilities, and some of this power is passed on to the three main characters, so Marimar, Ray and Rhiannon, and another one of them, but I can't remember her name, and she's not in it a lot. But yeah, so it alternates between them trying to figure out what's happening now and Arcadia's past, and it all sort of ties together in the end, and it was such a beautiful story. I read this, I listened to the audiobook, and it is a fantastic audiobook. I absolutely recommend it. It is on Scribd. It's a fantastic audiobook, fantastic story, so mystical and mythical, and very well done in the historical aspects. It is, our main character is from Ecuador, I believe it is. Yeah. So the main character, Arcadia, is from Ecuador, but she kind of runs away with this circus almost. But it's actually like a magical circus, and it's a lot darker than it seems. And this place where she's made her home, where she's put down roots, is sort of magically keeping her safe from the people that want to hunt her down. But on her death, that starts to become broken. The magic starts to break and the protection starts to wane. So our family need to figure out what's going on and kind of save themselves. I don't know. It was such a good read. I really recommend this. Definitely really recommend this. It's a good quick read. The audiobook narrator is fantastic. Definitely recommend. So I was also meant to read The Pill of the Stars, but I did not get to that. It's by Emma Donoghue, I believe. I've put it somewhere. I think I'm rolling it over into next month's TBR, so it's in my TBR thing. And I DNF'd Still Life by whoever that's by. I DNF'd that. It was far too litfic. It did not have speech marks for like any punctuation for speech. I even tried to listen to the audiobook and it was just sending me to sleep. It was far too litfic for me. It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't captivating at all. So I ended up DNFing that. But I think there's definitely an audience for it. I'm just unfortunately not that audience. Then, if anybody's seen my TBR, they will not be surprised that I read all of Percy Jackson. So that was Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson the Sea of Monsters, Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth, and Percy Jackson and the Last Olympian. I basically just, once I finished my sort of TBR that I knew I wanted to read, so all the books you've just seen, I then just binged my way through Percy Jackson. This was such an easy read. I read all of them basically like a day each, if not less. But yeah, I absolutely love Percy Jackson. It is, if you don't know what Percy Jackson is, I don't know what to tell you, but it is basically about our main character Percy, who discovers that he is a demigod. More specifically, he is the son of Poseidon, of the Greek pantheon, and there's a camp called Half-Blood that trains these heroes, so the Half-Blood children of the Greek gods. And he, in the first one, is sent on a quest to discover who stole Zeus's lightning bolt. But in the background, in the arc of the whole set of books, there is a war brewing with the Titans. So you follow Percy as they go on, Percy, Annabeth and Grover mainly, who kind of go on these quests to, they have like sort of yearly quests, but there's a lot sort of leading up to this war right in the end, in The Last Olympian. I think Rick Riordan's done a fantastic job of creating this world and creating these characters. Percy as a character is one of my favourite characters of all time. He is sassy, he is sort of self-depreciating, and some of the stuff that Rick Riordan sneaks into these books is fantastic. I really want to do a reread where I can highlight bits just for how well they're done. So just the sort of thoughtfulness that Percy has, the questions that he asks, the way he sees the world is just fantastic. You know, he is one of those people that doesn't take stuff for granted. He will question things, and he will sort of stop and say, whoa, wait a minute, I don't think things are exactly how they seem here. Maybe we should take a step back and just figure out what's going on. While at the same time, he deeply loves his friends. He deeply respects other people. For example, Clarice. He and Clarice do not get on. They do not get in from the moment they met. Him and Ares have this whole feud thing, so like Clarice, being a daughter of Ares, shouldn't really like Percy anyway because of that, but he still respects her as a warrior. He still respects her as a daughter of Ares, as a demigod, as someone who is a fantastic leader. And I can't get over how much I love Percy Jackson. And having read more Greek retellings over the past few years, seeing where he's slotted in, so you've got like the Nemean lion, the Cyclops that was fought by Orpheus, the nobody thing, the Sea of Monsters, you've got Circe, you've got all these different monsters and all these different tales from Greek mythology that he weaves into his stories. I mean, even in the next series, The Heroes of Olympus, it brings in Jason and the Argonauts. And there was a bit in the last book in the Percy Jackson, the 5 in the Last Olympian, about there's a section that comes straight out of the tale of Achilles and Patroclus, and it's the bit in the book The Song of Achilles that completely kills me. And he's put it into this book, and I didn't know about it until I read Song of Achilles, and then reading this again afterwards, it was just like I knew what was coming. And it's the same sort of thing, because in Song of Achilles, with the love that Achilles has for Patroclus, this is similar because of the two characters. They have this love for each other. It's not this, and this one is a platonic love. They are friends, and they love each other for that. It's not a romantic love, but Rick Riordan still he shows so many varieties of love in his novels that I think are really, really good for children to read. You know, the love that Sally, Percy's mum, has for Percy, and the love that he has for his mum, who raised him with this horrible stepfather. You've got the love that Sally and Poseidon have for each other, despite the fact that they're not together, and they know they can't be together, and they know they won't be together. The love that the campers have for each other, that they have for Chiron, that they have for the strange love they have for their godly parents, and sometimes hate. And in this, he speaks all the time about how family is messy, and that found family is just as important, if not sometimes more important, than your blood family. You know, one kind of love in this does not diminish another, and I think he's done a fantastic job. I really, really wish I'd have read this a bit more slowly and decided to annotate, but I think I will. Ro from Wandering Through Worlds is doing a read along on her Patreon starting December with Lightning Thief, and we'll be doing a book a month, so I might in the meantime of rereading all of them on my own, also go back and do the read along and do some annotations and maybe do a Percy Jackson themed vlog. But yeah, so that is everything I read in the month of November. I also read my section of the Clanlands Almanac, but you know, that's like a few pages. But yeah, so I'm really happy with what I read in November. That totaled 15 books, which is good. It's not what I've been doing. I have been reading, like, I read like 20 books the month before, but you know, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with 15 books. I've really not been well. I have been in hospital. I've been really quite unwell. So the fact that I still managed to read 15 books has really made me happy. So yeah, thank you so much if you stuck around to this point with me looking like an egg. So if you've read any of these books, please let me know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't read these and I've made them sound interesting, please let me know, because I would love to speak to you about these books, especially, you know, Maria Lewis. I cannot wait to do that vlog. Absolutely cannot wait to do that vlog. And yeah, so thank you for getting through this vlog. I'm watching the timer because I'm on sprints at the moment. I'm watching the timer and I've been filming for a while, about 35 minutes. I will try and cut this down. So yeah, I know this has been a long one as per usual because I natter. This is what Wesley does, and that's why I think he's awkward. And yet I'm the one that does it. Oh well. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and like I said, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to start doing the thing that people do. So if you are here, but you don't have anything to say, but you want to let me know that you're here, please pop an emoji in the comments. I don't know if there's an egg emoji because I look like an egg. Yes, I do, Alice, stop arguing with me. If there's not an egg emoji, put like let's do like there's a merman, like a merman or a mermaid emoji for Percy Jackson. That'll work. But yeah, I'm actually going to go this time, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.